One of our objectives in our research was to travel in different areas from Ukraine and ask people about their perceptions in their uses of languages, policy, etc. So in our first trip, we went to Zaporizhia and interviewed a group of scholars at Zaporizhia National University. This is what we discovered.
Hello, my name is Oksana. Hello, my name is Olga, and we are students of Mykolaiv National University named after Shukhomlinskyi. And we are very happy that we have such an opportunity to be taught by U.S. Perea. We attend his course in bilingualism and bilingual education.
And we are pleased to be involved in such research as bilingualism in Ukraine, led by Luis Perea. And as researchers, we should seek answers to questions of great interest to us. And we can do it here in Zaporizhia, where the International Seminar Multilingual Education in Ukraine is held. And it gives us a good chance to study this research from different points of view.
That is why we are going to interview experts and teachers and ask them some questions.
I'm Ukrainian, and of course Ukrainian is my native language, but I was born in the family where father was Ukrainian and mother was Russian. And since childhood, my mother recited me poems in two languages, in Russian and Ukrainian. I think that now I know perfectly Russian and Ukrainian, and I used it during all my life. And now I am working at Zaporizhia College. Our school is very patriotic, and we are speaking Ukrainian and English, and the professional language, of course, and communicate with each other in Ukrainian. I'm proud that I'm Ukrainian, though I have Russian roots, and I'm not, how does it say in English, ashamed of it. I'm proud that I have Russian roots, because all people are equal before Christ. Yes, of course, especially in our region. When I was in the 9th form, I had a cousin. He lived in Kyiv. He was a diplomat worker, and my cousin and I went there to Kyiv, and I was very much surprised when I heard Ukrainian language in trolleybus, for example. It was new for me. But in Zaporizhia, their Ukrainian language wasn't heard. I don't think so, because the Ukrainian language is becoming official language of the state. Okay. And it is the main thing for each student, for each pupil, for each person, and for all parents. The state is Ukrainian and the language is Ukrainian. But in 1991, when there were changes of our country, I thought and I expected that the government will take bilingual law. Mm-hmm. I was thinking about it. And as example of my life, knowing 2 languages, I could survive in any. And then I know English. So it helps people to survive, to get good job.
Definitely it is a legacy of Soviet times, because for more than 80 years the population of this country we are used to be Soviet Union, and Russian language dominated, and so everyone spoke Russian, and of course it is difficult, and besides some national languages in ex-USSR republics were diminished. And of course it is difficult now to make all the population start speaking national Ukrainian language. But luckily the situation is changing almost every day, because our mass media speaks Ukrainian and advertisements in the streets are in Ukrainian. So the situation slowly but gradually changes into favor of Ukrainian.
Yes, I agree with you. For example, I think after the revolution 2014, yes, in my opinion, many people goes with flags, Ukrainian flags, slogans, United Ukraine, and I think that it doesn't mean I'm patriot. You're patriot inside, yes, and
yes,
something it is.
And by the way, when in the 90s I went to Lviv, my problem was that I studied Ukrainian at school, but then while studying at university, I didn't study Ukrainian. It was only Russian. Mm-hmm. And of course, when you don't use language on a daily basis, it's a problem for you then to recollect your knowledge. Mm-hmm. And when I came to Lviv, I spoke Russian. And the inhabitants of Lviv asked me once, why don't you speak Ukrainian? I said, I respect this language too much to speak it in such a way. I would like to improve it, and then only I would be able to speak Ukrainian. Now, as a head of studies, I need to learn Ukrainian, and I try to do this. But frankly speaking, I feel a lack of knowledge. I would like to complete some course, perhaps, or something like this, because I don't remember Ukrainian from school. And when I listen to people speaking perfect Ukrainian, I simply admire, and I simply like to hear this. So, in my case, it works like this.
I disagree. The problem is that we shouldn't use language only as a political tool. Language is a way, is a means that develops the mind. And the politicians, actually, politics is a kiss of death, but language is a kiss of mind, and this what gives you another perspective. You can see the world differently. You can open something. You can develop yourself. You can only if you compare yourself with somebody else, you can understand the difference. Because if everything is the same, everything is green, we cannot see the rainbow. And if we have only one language, we can see the world in one dimension. If we add more, we have more dimensions of this. But when the language is used as a political tool, it will bring no good. Unfortunately, this is how the word language policy, multilingual, bilingualism or multilingualism is presented in Ukraine. Because multilingualism or bilingualism, in my opinion, is only a skill, but not policy.
I agree fully. I think that problem So linguistic problem in Ukraine is just problem for our politics. Yes, as a renaming of our street and another. But for us Ukrainians, it is just expressing our minds, and it's all. We understand each other, and it doesn't matter what will be language.
What language we use, Russian and Ukrainian, we understand them.
And you know,
all this.
And luckily more and more people start speaking Ukrainian in their everyday life, though they used to speak Russian before.
And even we know one proverb, how many languages you know, so many times you're a person.
Yes.
So that's why I think it's just politics is a kiss of death. I completely agree.
The politics say that even I, the advocate of bilingual, I think that sometimes they are right. When the nation is acknowledging itself, when the nation is becoming a developed nation and develops its state, maybe it's very important to speak the official language and to have the official language and promote this official language and to be advocate of Ukrainian language. It goes without saying, but maybe just now is the period when everybody understood that Ukrainian language must be official, and we try to speak Ukrainian. Maybe just now parallel learning of is real, but I doubt about it. It's not the time for this. We still should learn Ukrainian, speak Ukrainian, and maybe in some years when we will become, well, we will be bilingual.
Surzhyk, it is the language such Russian and Ukrainian. The mix with Russian and Ukrainian. If we know the word in Russian, we say in Russian. If we don't remember the word in Ukrainian, we say the word in Russian. And this is Surzhyk, in my opinion.
Not only the word, but there are sometimes consonants and vowels. Only one letter may be changed.
Maybe yes.
That some words which are not properly pronounced in Ukrainian, but are pronounced in Russian, because the speaker doesn't know the meaning of the word or doesn't know this word in Ukrainian, so she says it in Russian.
So I got a question. Are we talking about code switching, or is it an actual new language that is being formed?
No, we are talking about code switching.
Code switching.
Yes, because I wanted to compare it, for example, like American and British variant of English, but then I understood that they are absolutely different. It's absolutely different issue. So. I think this person mainly belonged to Ukrainian culture, but due to the fact that Ukrainian language wasn't properly taught in school, maybe some other reasons, so the person cannot speak pure Ukrainian, so she or he uses both language to communicate. And it is often Surzhyk is often frequently used by people who were born in villages because it's their nature.
Yes, the mother is Russian. And
the mother, yes, and the father is Ukrainian, both, and in family they speak both languages, and at school they sometimes have lessons and sometimes they don't, and so everything is mixed, traditions, culture, and so on, and that's why Surzhyk is born.
what?
The last one.
The last one.
Yes.
Interesting.
As for me, existing of Surzhyk can be explained as a lack of knowledge of definite language.
Yes.
You don't know Russian, you use Ukrainian words, or you don't know Ukrainian, you use Russian words. And sometimes the Ukrainian words are so bright, they give the definition so correctly, you see? And that is why I even have a wish to use this word just to give my attitude to the situation, you see? Because sometimes it is very difficult to find this word in the Russian language, you see?
And I want to add that my grandmother, she lived in Smolensk region, and she told me that they speak both on Russian and Belarusian, because they were near the Belarusian. That is why they also have Surzhyk. And I think in many regions we have such situation. Who lives near another countries, they use the language of those countries when they live. Do you agree with me?
It is mostly the result of language illiteracy.
Yes.
Both languages, Ukrainian and Russian.
Difficult to say. It seems to me no.
No, it is no. It's just improper pronunciation of some Ukrainian words. This is Surzhyk.
Okay.
Or with some specific pronunciation of vowels or the way of pronouncing words, but not like combining two words, Ukrainian and Russian, in one, like you just...
For example, when you say in Russian it is steklo, in Ukrainian it is sklo, and Surzhyk is steklo. So it's a mixture of two words, but in the means of the pronunciation.
The situation is actually changing, but not very fast. The situation in Ukraine is not the situation of bilingualism, because when we have a bilinguistic situation, two languages are the languages of parity, and they have the similar status, and they have the same rights. In Ukraine, we do not have that, because we can see that one language is absorbing the other one, and it's not going the other way around. And this is quite common situations are like when one person is speaking Ukrainian while the other person is speaking Russian, the person who is speaking Ukrainian can switch into Russian while it will never happen the other way around. And as we have this situation, it means that some people are just not willing to switch to Ukrainian, and then Ukrainian doesn't get this status of parity for the Russian language, and then this is not pure bilingualism, this is just like functioning of two languages simultaneously in the society.
We have many opinions, but I think our opinions we must keep.
So what?
Keep silence.
What do you think?
In this situation, because it is very difficult for us. We live in such difficult situation, and it is hard times for our country, and it is our pain, and maybe it is our shame. We must friends with the Russian people, and we have roots Russian, and this is horrible. I think it is very difficult for us. We have problems with our governments, with the governments of Russia and the governments of Ukraine. They have the war, but we have no war. We have a war
in the minds.
Maybe now of our government.
We have a Russian criminal, Putin. And that is the solution of the problem. That is all, I guess.
It will be maybe taught as a foreign language, right? A lot of maybe kids speak Russian right now because their parents speak in in the family, but they can't write in Russian, you see, but they use it. It will be taught and will be learned as a foreign language like Spanish, like French, like, I don't know, any other language, and that is all.
And the class is divided on 2 groups, and they have the good situation for Russian in our school, because in small groups they can a chance to learn Russian better.
I think they will use Ukrainian because they have to learn it at school and at the kindergarten, then they go to the university, and there is the Ukrainian language. In order to get a good job, you should know Ukrainian rather well, you see, and that is why it will be spread and people will speak Ukrainian more. It is natural because all our activities, right, they will be definite, and that is why the translation from English into Ukrainian, we have such an assignment, right? Then from Ukrainian into English and so on. If, for example, any mom does lessons with a pupil at home, right, Ukrainian language, so you have to learn Ukrainian language, Ukrainian rules of using the Ukrainian language, and that is why you have to use it, right? That is all. Our life makes us use it. That is why the Ukrainian language will prevail, of course. Russian will go away. And as soon as our parents die who speak the Russian language will die. It is life. It is natural. Yeah, but the process is very, very slow, right? Very, very slow.
But I think we won't witness the situation that Russian
Is out of use.
And even next generation. A lot depends upon education system. When Ukrainian is taught beginning from kindergarten,
Yes.
and then gradually at schools, and so on and so on and so on.
Yes.
But unfortunately, I know lots of schools and kindergartens and institutions where they mainly use Russian during lectures and during educational process. And besides at home, they also speak Russian. So this is the problem. But they hear Ukrainian on TV and on the radio.
Yes, always in mass media.
So it is a kind of mix in their brains.
Also, while in Zaporizhia, we were fortunate to interview and see an enactment from Cossacks in the area of Khortitsa. The Cossacks are an important group from the Ukrainian community who settled in this area. A siege is an administrative and military center of the Zaporizhian Cossacks. The word siege derives from the Ukrainian verb sikti, to chop, with the implication of clearing a forest for an encampment or of building a fortification with the trees that have been chopped down. We are on the island of Khortitsa now, and we are the descendants of those great predecessors, Zaporizhian Cossacks, who lived here and defended our territory. So we couldn't miss it out, because we are going to show not only their clothes and hairstyle, but also their style of life. Weapons which they use, the privileges of weapons. As you can see, we do exercises with horses. We try to hand over respect to our children and love for the country. At the beginning, we were working with horses, doing tricks with horses. Then we understood that if we put up as Cossacks, the Cossacks are associated not only with horses, but also with weapons. Warriors from the food troops were the best at the beginning. Then, over time, we began to master the martial arts. Unfortunately, with the introduction of firearms, the use of cold guns was decreased over time. Now it is too difficult to find a master who can show and tell about it. We spent almost 10 years to improve our mastership, so we studied systematically. We have a great master who lives in Crimea. Unfortunately, and for this reason, the connection was broken, but we are grateful to him for his experience. Of course, we are into luck to be in Museum of Cossacks. So many clothes are taken from it. And we read some studies to understand the patterns and pictures. And actually, Cossacks is not the nationality. It is the state of your courage that is how you feel. We are up to 10 people and many people want to join us. Nobody is forced to do this because it is quite dangerous. There are injuries and sears, especially to fall from the horse is dangerous. So many come, but not everyone stays. Generally, on Sikh, many different languages were spoken. Cossacks said if you are struggling with an enemy, you should know his language. So Cossacks spoke freely up to 5 languages: Ukrainian, Russian, Tatar, Polish, and Turkish. So, in order to defeat their enemy, Cossacks knew a lot of languages. So they were bilingual, they were polylingual. Thus, to say that they spoke only Ukrainian is wrong. Of course, all Ukrainian and all Russian were and are still in our speech. And when Catherine drove off the Cossacks, then they went on the Kuban and Don. And with the establishment of Soviet Union, people were forced Unfortunately, we have been working for 10 years and the first 3 years were very hard. From the beginning, we weren't understood. Then the development of patriotism began and then people began to pay attention to us. Of course, there are people who are interested in Ukraine, who are proud of its nation. They come and help whomever they can. Of course, we don't get a lot of money and we earn it through what we show and what we have learned.
Не підійдеш. Добре. Добре бились.
We try to learn English, of course. I study English a bit from school, but now I don't have an opportunity, time and practice. And some Cossacks also studied. Of course, English should be studied. Of course, we are planning and dreaming to establish a school to teach small children historical lessons, not only exercises with guns, so you know it is a very traumatic thing. So we don't let children for 10 years to be concerned with horses. We have a boy Khortitsa. He is 14. He has been working since he was 10. We induce all those who desire it, but we cannot finance it.
Готові, брати? Готові. Виїхали! Роблячи ось такі рухи, козаки тренувалися наносити удари з будь-якого положення. Але найголовніше те, що запорожці тренувалися як правою, так і лівою, задля того, щоб якщо у бою поранили вправо, перехоплюючи вліву, була можливість працювати як і правою. Від цього залежало і життя козака. Молодці!
Of course, firstly, I wish to be honest and a proud person. We forgot about the expression, what an honor. But to be honest, kind, courageous, and to keep a healthy lifestyle, we defend weak people and honor our predecessors and strive to be Zaporizhian Cossacks.
Самопали! Вогню! Приготувалися, брати! Списи! Тобою! Зараз ви бачите тільки декілька козаків. Уявляєте собі, якщо ось таким чином під бою ряд поставити сотню, то пройти таку загорожу вже майже неможливо. Перші ряди, які підуть у наступ, вони одразу лягають. Зараз зверніть увагу на нашого козака, який використовує таку бойову козацьку косу, яка має назву гвіздарми. За допомогою гвіздарми була можливість перерізати передні ноги ворожому коню, а використовуючи ось цей гак, була можливість вихопити зброю, або якщо зачепивши за будь-яку частину тіла ворога, стягнути його з коня. Гвіздарма насправді була потужна і небезпечна зброя. Коня не віддам.
Козаки використовували ось такий короткий лук для вершника. Ним було дуже зручно не тільки на коні, але й швидко пересуватись під час пішого бою.
Добре!
З дальньої та середньої відстані влучити з лука дуже важко, тому що ворог рухається і навіть може ухилятися від стріл. Використовуючи луки, козаки могли вражати ворогів навіть на дуже короткій відстані. Наприклад,
Усі разом! Готуйсь! Бей! Ви добре стріляєте.
та то не ваш!
Давайте, щоб краще було. А ну спробуйте у шапчину влучити.
Я влучу! Зуб даю!
Ще один.
Ще один! Та вчора дав!
Давай по черзі. Готуйсь! Бей!
Давай ще раз громче, контроль!
Давайте ще раз, брати! Готуйсь! Бей! Чого? Та пороблено, брат.
Так, прикрию, бо жінка додому не пустить.
Зачекай, брат, зачекай, що щитом сховай. Приготувалися, брати!
Я готов.
Готуйсь! Бей!
Також козаки використовували кидальну зброю в бою. Це могли бути ножі, сокири та інші зброї або речі, які можна було знайти на полі бою. Зараз я спробую вам показати, як кидали ножі.
Ого! Добре! Деякі козаки використовували ось такі невеличкі сокири. Їх також можна було застосовувати як кидальну зброю і вражати ворога на відстані. Зараз я спробую показати. Добре! Молодець, давай!
Також це міг бути зламаний спис або ось таке шансова зброя, шансовий інструмент.
Майже влучно. зброя на полі бою. Загострювався він по обидва боки, щоб колоти ворога не тільки попереду, позаду, збоку. Але головна перевага списа – то його довжина. Відійти з шаблею майже неможливо. Ага. Щоб вразити його, треба скоротити відстань. Та нанести удар. Шоломака, давай то покажемо, як в бою було.
Шоломака, хто так штрикає, а?
А, що ти, гоці?
Це не змог.
Я йду за колом.
Диви, який здоровий. Ну зараз я тебе наштовхну. Ей, хто так коле?
А зараз наш козак Палій покаже, як була можливість використовувати ось такого списа, сидячи на коні. Давай, брате! А зараз він буде збивати усю шапчину, як ворожу голову. Давай, брате!
Поїхав! Давай, Матвій! Добре, молодець!
А зараз наші козаки покажуть вам такий невеличкий тренувальний. От як же ж козаки тренували? Як вони вдосконалювали свою майстерність володіння шаблями? І взагалі, а от як же ж запорожці розважалися на січі? Але вам усім одразу треба зрозуміти, якщо вчасно не зупинити, можна його травмувати.
Зупини вже гром краще. Броньований якийсь. Молодець, гром!
Рука ціла, брат.
Нормально, ти бачиш.
Зараз, якщо є сміливий чоловік, іди сюди, я зроблю з тобою те ж саме. You right, please.
I am right hand.
Oh, okay, take me your left. Права тобі ще знадобить. Ой, Луїс, ти пробач мені. Щось не так. Він по-нашому не розуміє, це навіть і краще.
Де твій пістоль?
Навіть не ворухнувся, а? А я там зараз як чкурне шукаю його потім.
Як скеля стоїть, гром! Добре!
Рука ціла, ще одна шабля. Це ось така європейська, польська, литовська шабля. Вона відрізняється від попередньої довжиною і вагою. Саме ось такі довгі і важкі шаблі найчастіше використовували вершки. Ну, перевага – це довжина. Якщо ворог буде стояти на землі, ухилятися від удару і припадати до землі, схилившись з коня, його легко було дістати. Така шабля дуже важка, тому як має на кінцівці ось таке утяжеління. Ялмань зроблена для того, щоб найпотужніший рублячий ріжучий удар знаходився ось у цієї частини шаблі. Ну і зараз наш козак Крига покаже, як козаки тренувалися ось такими довгими шаблями. Зараз він буде рубати ось таке гілля, як ворожі голови. Давай, братове!
Таку зброю робили з корня дерева. А якщо треба, то вбивали залізом, як цю. І така добня пробивала будь-які обладунки, шоломи та й навіть щити. Але така зброя дуже добра проти НАТО. Але не проти однієї людини. Зі швидкою зброєю, як шапка. Чому дивиться увагу? Нашинкую, як цього огірка нашинкували. Але якщо натовп ворогів обступає козака з довбни, уявіть, що буде з їхніми ворожими макітрами. А ну давай! Давай на шаблю! Уявіть собі, якщо козак їде у степу у високій траві, а попереду йде вороже військо. Один козак повинен був заляти з конем у високій траві.
Ось таким чином вони лягали, чекали поки.
Ось таким чином він обірвався, піднімав з землі, наприклад, шаблю і рубав ворогів. Але зараз козак буде на повній швидкості піднімати оцю малахайку. Що, як гадаєте, підніме?
Да.
Я гадаю, ні. Зуб даю ще один, не підніме. Ну ж бо! Пустіться вправо. Батаги виготовляли зі шкіри, а на кінці робили ось такий хлястик з кінського волосся. Потужним ударом можна, в незахищену частину тіла можна було розсікти шкіру або відрубати навіть пальця з кісткою. І зараз я покажу, що я навчився робити батагом. А що ти проти списав тим батагом зробиш? Зараз я... Ти що робиш? А ти бачив, як воно громко?
Шановні, запорожці вдосконалили батоги, приєднавши на кінцівку цього хлястика ось таку свинцову кулю. І потім така зброя вже і справді ставала небезпечною. Була можливість вихопити зброю або за допомогою ось такого батога і кулі взяти і добивати.
Ей, так підводься вже! А то у полон відтягнемо. Давай. Чуєте, оце добре вони батагами поляпали. Так це одним.
Так а на тобі другий.
Нащо мені другий?
Так поляпай двома.
Хе! А ну добре, відходь, спробую. Вперед! Гей!
Давай довкола! Привітайте, козаки! Слава, брати! Слава Україні!
Here in Khortitsa, we interviewed a scholar, Dr. Alexandra Golovko, from Zaporizhia National University. She recently conducted a linguistic study at her university in order to see what languages are preferred and used amongst her teaching staff and students. She also shared her opinions on the linguistic situation in Ukraine.
So we know that you did the research on multilingualism in Zaporizhia. Could you tell us something about this research?
Okay, sure. This was a joint collaboration between Tartu University of Estonia and the Persian National University, and the main idea was to find out the situation at our university and whether our students are ready to switch to multilingual education they are open to the idea of having classes not only in Ukrainian and Russian or English, but also to have classes in English that are delivered not like English classes for the sake of English, but also, for example, economics in English, history in English, or any other class in English. And the main idea was to interview the students, the academic and non-academic university representatives, and find out their attitudes to multilingualism. And we found out that students are actually open to multilingual education, but the only problem is that when we ask should students be allowed to have classes in English, for example economics in English, they said yeah they should be allowed. And the next question, or in 2 or 3 questions, it was should it be must students have classes in English, for example economics in English? They said no. So everything depends on how you ask the question. So if it is modality actually changes the attitudes, and if you ask whether they should be allowed, it means that they will have 2 options to choose English or Ukrainian. They say yes, definitely, because we all want to be open to the society, to the open world. And then you ask the same question, but must students be allowed? They say no, because it's like imposing and depriving the students the right of learning and studying something in their own language or mother tongue. And the general idea is that we interviewed over 1,500 students of Zaporizhia National University, and we found out that the average skills of our students range between B1 and B2. Of course, there were students who couldn't English skills B1 and B2. Of course, there were students who said that they cannot speak English well, but there were also students who said that their English was C1 or C2. But on average, the results show that that means that if the university continues to follow its idea of the framework of non-stop language education, then in some years the university will be able to introduce more classes in English. So far, the university has launched this idea, and all the students have to take at least 1 class over the period of their studies in English, if they, or in a foreign language, it can be also German or French, if they do not major in foreign languages. So, for example, management, students who major in management will definitely have at least 1 class taught in English, and that is not just English for the sake of it.
It's hard work, really, but interesting. Thank you.
For example, what can you say about language situation in Zaporizhia? I mean, Ukrainian versus Russian, and what is your prediction for the future?
Actually, we didn't analyze the linguistic situation in the city. We asked our students, and I can tell you about the results at our university. And our university, all the students who participated in the research said that they are proficient speakers, or at least advanced. So they said that they understand both English, Ukrainian and Russian at the level C1 or C2. That means that they are native speakers, and this is a clear situation that the country has bilingualism. The only problem is that sometimes students can be reluctant to speak this or that language, even though their proficiency is quite high.
Okay, and what about predictions for the future?
I'm not into analytics, but I think that everything depends not on my predictions, but on the political situation in the country, and what our ministers, prime ministers, and all the politicians decide to choose. If they choose the direction for giving support to Ukrainian instead of imposing it in a way how it is done sometimes, then it may be good. Because, for example, and some laws that are passed by our parliament are quite good, but unfortunately the way they are implemented still needs to be improved. And when the bill was passed that all the films should be translated that are in the cinemas should be translated into Ukrainian, there was something like a wave of dissatisfaction, but actually this was a very good move afterwards, because in Ukrainian translation versus of most films, Ukrainian translation is much better than Russian translation. And it means that I'm happy that my students will be employed, because it will be still needed. On the other hand, I believe that translation of films is something that shouldn't be done, because it's firstly it's very expensive. Secondly, we can always dub films. In Ukraine we dub films, but we can't just subtitle them. And if the films are subtitled, then people will be exposed to the language more and more open, and they will get used to the number of sounds, words, expressions, and so on. And this is how the languages could be learned by the population passively.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. And another question, because we know you are one of the main scholars here at the University, National University of Zaporizhia, and based on the research that you have conducted recently, and based on your your experience with the university students, my question is more global. What, to your opinion, could be the projection, the future of Russian and Ukrainian and also English? What do you think could happen with Ukraine in terms of the language use?
Okay, thank you very much for this honorable title of one of the most outstanding researchers. I'm definitely not. I just do what I like and find pleasure in. But again, the linguistic situation in the country depends pretty much on the economic situation and on the politics. And so far, our political situation is not the one that supports people in terms of staying in the country. Unfortunately, the ones who can develop the country easily and can lead the country in the future are leaving the country, because the country cannot satisfy their needs in terms of pay, protection, and satisfaction. People who are creative, they have to fight for survival, and if people don't feel sure that their life tomorrow is okay, they will they usually leave the country for a place where they can feel safe. And in the case survival attitudes versus creativity, of course people want to have both, and those who are creative, they unfortunately live in the country. And I don't know what's going to happen, because some people say that there are 29 or 30 million people. Nobody knows, because we haven't had census for many years, and I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not in politics. I don't do this. I'm not an expert in this field, but I think that the main task for our country right now is to ensure the citizens that they live in the nearest future, for example in 2019, will be much easier, more prosperous than it is right now. And then we can speak about all the other aspects, because when people starve, they have to live, and the salaries, the minimum wage.
So it seems like, as you mentioned, it will all depend on the politicians, on the laws enacted, and so on. So it seems to me like people, depending on what politicians do, the government, it seems to me like people either would adapt to that change, or they would know. What do you see? What do you think could be happening more? People adapting to what politicians enact in terms of laws, education, or would people that would say, okay, I'm going to choose to live in this way, I'm going to choose to use this language versus the other because it serves my needs?
I don't know. Different people will choose different lives for themselves, because some people can sustain, other people say, no, I'm fed up. And of course there will be different people with different decisions. I'm not into analytics. I didn't do this research, but some people will leave, others will stay.
I see. Okay. Well, thank you very much for allowing us this time, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
During our first trip to Zaporizhia, we learned a lot of interesting information, especially as it relates to the historical aspects of Ukrainian language, Russian language, and from the opinions from the experts. So at some point during the Soviet Union, Russian was seen as an elite language and the main language of education. Interestingly, the older generations really embrace Russian more, and as some of my colleagues have declared, with time, Russian will fade away. Still, there is the need for adult Ukrainians to learn Ukrainian more methodically and systematically. On one hand, Ukrainian language is getting more attention in media, movies, education, and perhaps even more after the political situations post-Euromaidan, the annexation of Crimea to Russia, and the current war on the East. These could be the main triggers of Ukrainian language nationalism. On the other hand, Ukrainian citizens don't view language as policy or a political tool, rather as a skill. Linguistically talking, Ukrainians are still struggling with other linguistic varieties such as Surzhyk, the mixture of both Russian and Ukrainian. Even though some Ukrainians view it as a product of illiteracy, lack of education, and typically spoken in the villages, yet it is part of the linguistic repertoire of Ukrainian people. Another aspect to mention is how Ukrainians still acknowledge the Russian roots nowadays and see Russian people as brothers and sisters. This part represented perhaps by the latest generation of Ukrainians who were born and raised during the USSR times. Will it be true that once this generation disappears, it will be the end of Russian language spoken in Ukraine? One thing for sure, as the experts declare, Ukrainian will be indispensable in jobs, education, government in the near future. The current educational system in Ukraine will have a great impact on this transition. What we cannot deny, however, is the multilingual phenomenon Ukraine has experienced historically. As one example, the Cossacks, an important minority group in Ukraine who were multilingual and still are. People nowadays are embracing other languages such as English. As my colleague Alexandra declared, many students want to embrace English not as a language for the sake of learning it, but as a linguistic tool to learn specialized content. This based on her linguistic research of 1,500 students interviewed. So, for whatever reason, political, educational, financial, etc., Ukraine has been multilingual, is still multilingual, and will continue evolving as Ukrainian citizens see appropriate to satisfy their needs in our demanding societies.
Оставайся собой, улыбайся рассветом и уверенным шагом вперед, навстречу весеннему ветру. Жизнь прекрасна, смотри, сколько лучиков светлых вокруг, океаны любви и улыбка, что дарит друг. Пусть солнце лучистое в душе твоей разольется, пусть небо прозрачно чистое синевою к сердцу прикоснется. рядом остается. И каждый, кто дорог, пусть рядом остается. Даже если вдруг гром град по сердцу обильно, есть на свете родимый дом, где поймут, там ведь любят так сильно. Рядом пусть будет та, для которой ты смысл и счастье. Нежным взглядом она защитит от беды ненастья. Пусть солнце лучистое в душе твоей разольется, пусть небо прозрачно чистое синевою к сердцу прикоснется. Ты просто живи, дыши и люби, и каждый, кто дорог, пусть рядом остается. И каждый, кто дорог, пусть рядом остается. Пусть солнце лучистое в душе твоей разольется, пусть небо прозрачно чистое синевою к сердцу прикоснется. Ты просто живи